It's the $500,000 question on your ballot on Tuesday. For St. Louis County voters, it's called Proposition B, and it would give the county council a lot more power to fire people like my next guest, who is one of the department heads in County Executive Sam Page's administration, Courtney Whiteside, who heads up the St. Louis County Municipal Courts. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
What's at stake if voters adopt Prop B? We heard county executives say B is bad.
That's a great question. So I think some things at stake, we have to take into account the future of St. Louis County as well. I think it would lead to a somewhat chaotic environment. Under one leader, we have a singular mission, and the directors, we have a group of very talented directors, and we are all sharing the same mission. And if we have 8 people with 8 different missions, it will really make it very difficult to continue to provide the same level of service to St. Louis County residents that we do today.
We have heard from members of the county council, though, who have expressed displeasure and frustration with some department heads or with County Executive Page in wanting to get more information, more testimony. What do you think is the source of that frustration?
A lack of communication. I think in a lot of instances, people look at things differently. They have different opinions, and that can create communication challenges. And they're not insurmountable, but it's going to take time and work together to overcome those challenges.
Is it your view that department heads do have a responsibility to show up and testify before the county council when asked?
I think more importantly that our responsibility to the people of St. Louis County, which the people on the council represent. So through that, yes. And I think that when we do that, that is the public's opportunity and the council's opportunity to look at the good works that we are doing. And if they want to weigh in, that's their opportunity to do that as well.
And I'll pose the same question to proponents of Prop B as well, but if, say, for example, a county council member came to you or came to one of the other department heads and said, I've got this constituent, I need them to do something. If you start getting pressure from somebody who could fire you, what kind of dilemma would that present you with?
I think that would present the same dilemma that it would present to anybody in any employee-employment relationship. And I have never personally felt that pressure. I think that any council person certainly has a right to inquire. I think that what would be more important is what's the ask. If the ask is something that is unethical, illegal, or if they're just searching for information, two totally different topics.
Mm-hmm. What would happen to the functions of government and government services if this passes?
I don't know that there would be an immediate impact, but really quickly we would find that we don't know which direction we're going in, and that is going to present challenges. And when we don't have one singular vision and mission, then it confuses the narrative. It confuses what we are ultimately trying to achieve.
Fair to say you think this would significantly weaken the executive branch?
I think it would weaken the departments that represent the executive branch. Yes.
All right, Courtney Whiteside from the Municipal Courts in St. Louis County. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We turn now to the other side of the table for the other side of the issue. County Councilwoman Shalonda Webb joining us. Thank you for coming in studio.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
What's at stake if the county votes down Prop B? What would happen?
What will be at stake is ensuring that we have checks and balances in St. Louis County to have good governance. We have worked as best as possible to be able to have some working relationship with the county executive and the directors. And now we're put in a situation where there will be no checks and balances if we don't have this charter amendment. And so I'm just wanting to know, why is it good enough for all of the other counties in Missouri and some St. Louis counties, but not good enough for the actual St. Louis County?
But I think that the point that they're making is that if every one of the members of the board can come together and assert political pressure over one individual director or another, that it creates a confusing system. Who's really in charge of whom? Does the executive really have control of its department heads if you can come in and organize a coup? And for example, the county councilor, Dana Redwing, would be one of the people that you would have power over. Is this a continuation of that ongoing fight?
No, it's not. And that's what we're trying to stop, Mark. Working there every day and being under the hood, the political pressure that the county exec applies is unbearable when we're trying to get the work done. And we just want to give people the opportunity to be balanced, that they don't have to be afraid of retaliation. They don't have to be afraid of being let go with no cost, because our process, our legislation or the proposition will give a due process to these current directors. Right now, they don't. Now, does it change any of the authority? Is it a power grab? No, because Dr. Page will still have that same authority he does. But what it will do is, what a lot of people won't acknowledge, is allow those directors that feel intimidated, that feel the pressures of retaliation, an opportunity to have a public hearing about what's actually happened to him.
You've said that there would be no checks and balances if Prop B does not pass. Aren't there some checks and balances now?
The checks and balances right now, as it becomes to our department head, is that Dr. Page appoints them and then the council confirms them. But after they're there, regardless of being derelict of duties, regardless of not being truthful or bringing needed information to this council, we have no authority to change that. Prime example was Dr. Khan. His behavior was despicable. And even though what he shared about the community harassing him, or none of that was true. None of that was true. And even a year after it was proven that none of that was true, he was still able to continue his job and then resign on his own accord.
I want to get your reaction to some of the messaging we've seen from the St. Louis County government. The executive branch just recently on Facebook, a post that said a yes on B vote would mean that directors could be fired during emergencies like snowstorms or a public health crisis. Is that a possible outcome here?
Let's just use common sense.
You're saying that the council wouldn't take that
That
step?
would not be a step. There would have to be 5 out of 7 council members to want to lose all of their common sense and want to remove a person during such an emergency. When we was having those tornadoes 2 weeks ago, the last thing on my mind in North County was about a director and removing them. The first thing on my mind was to make sure that the people were safe, that the people were safe, and ensure that they had the supplies and things that they need. For them to try to use this scare tactic, and that's what this administration does. They like to throw out scare tactics to get people to not want to move forward.
You define the opposition as you're campaigning for an issue here or there, but I wonder about the priority of this, because this is a lot of Rams money, more than $500,000 just to get this question on the ballot. What would you say to skeptical voters who say, why is it worth that much? I thought the Rams money was supposed to help us all. Why are we funding this political fight with this money?
So the Rams money, this is the interest on the Rams money. So this is money that we never had. And this, again, is to hear the voice of the people. When it comes to hearing the voice of the people, it is important. And I know it's a price tag to it. But to hear directly from our constituents on how do you want us to do your governance, it's worth it. Same thing was true when we put on the ballot initiative, whether or not they want the county executive to have more than one job. We put it to the people and let them, we got their voices and we governed accordingly. The same thing is true about the council having their own separate attorney. We put it before the people, they decided, and we governed accordingly.
You had raised the issue about outside employment before, and the prospect of an ethics committee to explore and examine that, to get into the issue. Doesn't that creation of an ethics committee, for example, say in the future, some department head refuses to come before you and testify, can't you use tools like that to compel someone's testimony?
So
aren't there tools that exist today that you could use?
So there's a tool to have them come before us. There's not a tool to hold them accountable. There's a difference. I can hear your story all day long, and talk in some of these cases is cheap because then there is no actions to be carried forth. And therefore, actions like Dr. Khan in the past and other directors that have not been doing their jobs, they then have an opportunity not to be held accountable. And this isn't for everybody. I think you had Courtney Whiteside on as well. Courtney is a model director. Some of her practices to do KPIs, key performance indexes, and to make sure that her team is performing with excellence, that is the model gold standard that we wish everybody was doing, but everybody is not. Courtney comes before us prepared for her budget hearings. Courtney has yet, to my knowledge, skip out on a committee of the whole meeting, but that is not the actions of all of the directors. That is the cream of the crop, and we want to make sure the cream of the crop continues to be the cream of the crop.
Last question I'll pose to you is, because you're talking about accountability and the people that work in government being responsive to the needs of the public. Isn't that what elections are for? And if you put the power to fire some of Sam Page's department heads there, do you remove pressure for voters to come out and fire Sam Page at the ballot box in 2 years?
No, we don't, because leadership starts at the top. And St. Louis County has to decide what kind of leadership they want.
That's my question, though, is don't you think he feels that pressure now? To be
No, his
responsive?
behavior does not coincide with what you just said, because of the way that the temperature has been for the 4 years, and it's been rising ever since. And in St. Louis County, that has not been proven true. It is not that he feels the pressure to do and work with integrity. And we have plenty of examples for that.
I know we invited you here to talk about this election and Prop B, but it sounds like, if I'm reading you correctly, that maybe would you like to see a Democrat challenge him in a primary?
Yes. I want to make sure that people feel like this seat is not owned by anyone. And so if there is a Democrat that is qualified, that wants to come forth and actually serve as the county executive, they should have that opportunity. I say the same thing about my seat. I do not own this seat. The seat belongs to the people, and they, every 4 years, get to decide if they want me to continue to serve them or if they want someone else.
Do you have interest in a job like that?
I know what this question is. Am I running for county exec? And I've said this when we was at the State of the Union. I am, yes, interested, but I am going to do my due diligence and make sure that I take this in consideration on how I can best serve the community. So it's not just about wanting to do this job. It is about making sure that we do our due diligence. I make a data-driven decision to make sure that what's needed for the community is put first.
You know, that raises another immediate question.
What's that?
Should you be in that role one day, would you be comfortable living under these rules, giving the county council this kind of power over your department heads?
And I share this with my colleagues all the time. We do not make changes to our governing rules, the charter, on someone's bad behavior. You make those governing rules based upon the seat.
Isn't that what
and
you're
the
doing,
authority. No, it's not. Because everybody wants to attribute this only to Sam Page, but this is putting protections in place for the future county executives that, hey, we don't tolerate this misbehavior. We don't tolerate this lack of integrity, this deceit, and this retaliation and vindictive type of behavior. We want to protect all of our employees, including our directors, and by having a public process where they can go through to, if they're brought up on any type of issues, they can come before us and be able to address those issues. And then the difference between just talking, there can be an action taken. But that action can only be taken by a supermajority, a 5 to 7 vote.
All right, in the last 15 seconds we have here, sum it up for voters at home who want to know, what's in it for me if I vote for Prop B?
What's in it for you if you vote for Prop B is to make sure that all of our communities get the service of excellence that they deserve. Let's take example, derelict properties. We've been trying to tear down those properties for 3 years almost, 2 to 3 years now. We want to work with our department heads to actually start that process and complete it. That's been on Dr. Page's desk for several years. We've had to take back the ARPA funds, defederalize them, now try to reappropriate them for them to execute the job. We want to make sure, as a person at home, that you can make sure that these people do their job. That's all we want. We want you to do your job, work with integrity, and work with the council. One thing that I would like to say, and I've heard this from previous directors who's no longer here, and you know, there have been challenges and directors have left on their own cognizance. And what they saw over their 10, 15, 20, 25-year career was that when we served as directors before this administration, we knew that we worked for the executive branch, but we served all 3 branches equally, making sure that we provided them what they needed in a timely manner and with full disclosure.
All right, County Councilwoman Shalonda Webb, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.